but it's, you know, it is really impressive that to have got, I think, especially to have got into the acting world in the way that you have, without the connections, without the training, you know, and then to be, you know, to have had this career where if you look at your CV online, it's constant, you know, it looks like constant working. I'm sure there've been times when you haven't been working, but it looks like you're, you know.
That's the beauty of writing your own CV online.
But yeah, so the Peter Kay obviously was a really big deal. Was that clear when because you wrote for like the Peter Kay thing and did a couple of little parts in it, right? Is that right? Or
yeah, so we met in the final of the New Comedy Awards, the BBC New Comedy Awards, and then Peter had already won So You Think You're Funny, which is Channel 4 version. Pete's, you know, even then was an incredible stand-up comic. I mean, the one thing that he just excels in more than anything is just being able to make people laugh. It's extraordinary to watch, and he got a pilot. He got a 1-episode commission, and he asked me to help write on it, and off the back of that, he got a 6-episode deal, and that became the Peter Kay thing. Yeah. So we were writing on that together, really. Me, Pete, and Dave wrote on that, and then that won a British Comedy Award. So then, but of course, you know, Pete was very much the flagship of it. It was Pete's vehicle and stuff, and then me and Dave were obviously writing it with him, and then he got a commission of a series, and that's where Phoenix Nights came from. Yeah. And Phoenix Nights very much like The Office, sort of. I mean, they put it on a Thursday night at 25 to 11. Yeah. And you know, you can do a show that you love, and then you get it commissioned, and then you get it made, and you think it's all flying, and then, you know, the commissioning editor phones up and says, we've got it slotted on a Thursday night at 25 to 11, and you go, well, you've just killed it. Everything we've just done, all our hard work, it's gone. Who's going to watch? Who's going to spend a Thursday night at 25 to, not even 10:30? It wasn't even that specific, you know. But alongside that, I'd had this dream for years of, I mean, Liverpool is such a beautiful city, and I used to drive along the Dock Road and see these, and they're still there now. They had the old sugar factory thing that was like the big dome. I think that's still there now on the Dock Road. And they had these buildings that had the zigzag staircases out the side. You know, like when you, and a lot of the time they shoot New York City and American shots are shot in Liverpool for that very reason. It's just, it's the biggest filmed city outside of London in the country, and it's definitely in this country anyway, because of the buildings and the architecture. So I always had this idea that I always wanted to do something and try and control it as much as I could. And it happened at the same time as a friend of mine wanted to be a producer, and he'd been producing plays and stuff, and he moved down to London. And then we found out in the mid to late 90s that there was a tax exemption thing, a bit of a con, basically. So what happened was people were allowed to invest their money into film production. Now, when you do a film, your film budget, if you've got a £1 million film budget, you spend all that £1 million and you don't acquire anything. So there's no tax to pay on it. Yeah. You're only taxed on a product. So it only becomes taxable when that film comes out. Because if it doesn't come out, you've only got a canister with a film in it, and it doesn't belong to anyone. It's such a weird kind of vague area. They've clamped down on it now, unfortunately. But what happened was there was like a tax exemption thing where people were just plowing money into films. And my mate had gone down to like sort of his dream to be a producer, and he called me up and he said, look, I've met these people and they've got access to funds, but I haven't got a product. I haven't got a film script. And I hadn't worked in 10 years as an actor. I hadn't worked at all. Right. From 89 to 90 odd, I hadn't worked at all. And he said to me, have you got any ideas? And I'm the youngest of 4 brothers. And 2 of my brothers owned a gym. We had a gymnasium in Stanley Road in Kirkdale. So I vicariously entered the world of the dark and misty underworld, you know what I mean? Because I used to listen to these conversations of people, and some of these people were full-on hardcore gangster lunatics, you know what I mean? And then I started just gathering these stories and listening to these stories, and I was always fascinated with writing a story about someone who accidentally became a gangster. It was more like disorganized crime rather than organized crime. Yeah. And you know, this idea that they all wear the sharp suits, and you know, I wanted something that was a little bit more truthful and a little bit more about a victim of circumstances. And so I wrote a script. What happened was I put the phone down for me mate. Now I was living with my girlfriend at the time, and she said, "Go and write your idea. Just go and write your idea. And I was living in a house in Kensington. For those of you listening, not that Kensington. Very much not that Kensington. The people listening to this going, well, he's doing all right for himself, isn't he? No. And I went upstairs and I wrote this. And within 12 months of the phone call, we were on a yacht in Cannes.
Wow.
And it had been made. And but bear in mind, we'd shot this on, we had very little money at all. And everything was, family members helped. And it was extraordinary. We got given these 3 trucks. We knew these guys who had a truck rental place. And they said, look, we've got 3 trucks there we're not using. So we used one as a camera truck, we used one as a costume truck, and one as a makeup truck, and we had them all parked behind each other when we were on location. But we only had 1 tax disc. Right? This is a true story. So what we did was we had a kid whose job it was through the entire film. He would sit in the front seat next to the driver. And when the police turned up, which they always would when you were shooting location stuff, when the police turned up and got out and chatted to the driver, his job was to get the tax disc and run it to the next van before the copper got there. And that's what his job was. He was the tax disc boy. And so we couldn't really afford anything, really. We got Bernard Hill in it. Yep. It was a film called Going Off Big Time. It's on Prime now. It's made a fortune. I've never seen a penny of it.
Really?
Yeah. The biggest gangsters are the ones you hand your film to. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that was kind of going on weirdly, traversing Phoenix Nights.
Yeah.
So in fact, Peter was in it. Peter played a part in Going Off Big Time. So, and that's the thing I'll be most proud of, I think, when I finally get my ticket punched, I think, because my family came to it. My family came to the screen, and then Samuel L. Jackson came to the screen, for God's sake.
Okay.
It was really bizarre. He came walking down. I was doing a speech before the film started, thanking the producers and thanking all the investors. And this guy came walking down with a Kango cap on. And he had a large popcorn in one hand and a drink in the other. And 2 blokes flanking him. And I couldn't really see. Like this now, you can't really see. And as I was saying something, he went, "Go, Fitzy!" And I went, "Oh, that's a bit weird." And then when he sat down, it was fucking Samuel L. Jackson. And he was doing a film called 51st Date that he was just in pre-production of. So he'd been invited to come and see this film. And it was, so that would be my proudest thing.
Yeah, but and it did well, didn't it? And
it did really well. It got you. Independent cinema then was a struggle. Independent cinema now is a nightmare.
Yeah.
Because cinemas are owned by the American cinemas chains, and when we were doing Going Off Big Time, which was 99, we made it. I think it was released in 99, 2000. You had to get I think Pete mentioned it last week.
Yes, last week. Yeah. Were you here last week?
He's had enough. I'm not having this last week.
Was that Samuel L. Jackson?
It might have been him.
Just leave.
He needs to put the Kango back on, I know that. You had to have faxes from America to cinemas in this country to let them show trailers and stuff. And now it's even worse, because now it's just Star Wars or the Avengers. So independent cinema is such a difficult thing to do, and it's really annoying because there's so many talented people out here who don't get a chance to do it. So Going Off Big Time, getting released at all was incredible.
Yeah, absolutely.
For the thing we shot it on, we greenlit the film on £90,000.
Right.
And we shot it on anamorphic, which was Ben Hur. So basically you have this anamorphic film stock, and it's 70 millimeter. It's just this incredible. So they shot Ben Hur on it, and then they realized it was really expensive and just put it all on a shelf, and no one used it. And we went, yeah, we'll have that for nothing. Thank you very much. Wow. It just meant that you had to have an anamorphic converter in the cinemas to show it. But loads of them had them. So we just seated the pants, shot the film, and we were running out of money all the time. And we had we had £60,000 that was coming to us from the Del Monte Empire. Do you remember the advert? The man from Del. Give that man an orange. Well, this is the story. So they withdrew their investment a week before we were planning on spending it. So we were the only people in the world the man from Del Monte said no to. That's how we lived with that one particularly. But it was really, we were running out of money. We didn't know if we were ever going to finish the film. So that, I think, will go down, I think, as the biggest thing for pride for me, sense of pride.
Yeah, but again, Nick, so this is something most people would get that opportunity and go, and fumble it or not do it. So again, it's just, you've got something, you've got the drive in you that you knew you didn't want to be a roofer. I had the same thing with my career's advice. I said I wanted to be a comedian, and he said it's not on the form.
Yeah.
And I think he said you should work at a bank, which was, even I knew that was bullshit, because everyone in my family was a teacher. So I knew if I wasn't going to be a comedian, I was going to be a teacher. So I didn't need a career. So these guys, you know, but
Whatever happened to banks?
yeah, but you know, so to do that, and you know, you must have been what, in your 30, were sort of in your 20s or 30s there? You were young anyway, weren't you, in the 90s?
Yeah, I was 29, 30, 29, 30.
So
I think with me, it's always been a thing of my drive is being told I can't do it. I think that's probably, if I have any talent at all, it's trying to prove people